Hello, thank you for joining us. I'm your host, J.R.Alva, voice actor. I'm joined here with...
Jay Anderson, manager and commentator at PWL.
We had the opportunity to watch The Watchers. If you haven't had a chance to watch the trailer, just so you know, it is I believe M. Night Shyamalan's daughter.
Yes, M. Night Shyamalan's daughter, actually. Directorial debut, I believe.
I think it was pretty interesting. I honestly think we should, people need to go and watch this movie. What do you think?
Well, I think this is an interesting case of like one of those questions I don't think I can answer quite yet, and I can't wait to dive more into it because honestly, right now I'm not sure if you should watch this movie. So can we dive into this? Can we dissect it right now?
Well, I thought it was a good movie. What's your opinion on that?
I mean, if I have to give an overall basis without any spoilers whatsoever, I did not like it. I was actually love M. Night Shyamalan. I was excited because he had produced it. This is his daughter's debut, but I actually had a lot of major problems with it.
With that being said, you feel like it's a problematic movie. Was there some kind of saving grace that made you stay to keep watching this movie?
Saving grace to it, honestly, is all the mythological lore that they drop, okay? We're going to go into like a little bit of spoiler territory here. So, spoiler alert for those of you who have not seen the movie. But the movie in general consists a lot about fairy folk and the whole Irish mythology. They mix a little bit of other mythologies here and there, just kind of keep you interested. But in the most part, it is very fairy folk focused.
It felt like they peppered in a lot of different mythologies and stuff like that into there. I mean, I saw runes. I saw something that looked like Latin. I was trying to dissect this movie as well as I was watching. So I think looking for a saving grace, I think only reason why I think I stayed hooked on this movie was just because I was interested in maybe the main character or what was her deal. Did you feel for any of the characters in this?
Well, me, I literally wrote down on my notes, folks, here that she had a big case of Batman syndrome. Allow me to explain this, okay? Her folks are dead, and I understand your pain. I really do. But it's been 15 years. It's been 15 years. Stop making it Robin's problem at this point. Anyways, that being said, I really wasn't a big fan of her, but I did find that to be kind of interesting because she's kind of like, felt like to me, she sucked the life out of every scene. She was named Mina, and her sister was named Lucy. And if you guys don't know why that's so significant, Mina and Lucy were the females that were being tormented by Dracula, So of course it would make sense that she sucked the life out of every scene. She's affiliated with Dracula himself. Main characters themselves didn't really stick out to me. There was no character that really did it for me. I'm not gonna lie. And all in all, at least she drove the story.
Did drive the story. That was something we discussed on the last one. That was kind of an issue. So this one, she was very much in front of the camera pretty much as often as possible. With that said, were there any memorable moments that you felt that you connected with, or just something that popped out for you?
Again, not so much memorable moments. Now, the whole thing is based a lot on mythology. So if you know your mythology, it's a treat for you. These things that they encounter in the woods, or the Watchers, if you will. Again, another spoiler alert. These are fairy folks, and these are shape-shifting fairy folks. They disguise themselves as you. They call out your names and use your voices. They try to emulate you at all points. And at that point, what they're really referring to is a thing known as a mimic. It's a mythological creature that mimics you. The facts that they don't get it perfect and they emulate your voices, those derive from the ancient native lores of skinwalkers, wendigos, and for my European friends, fleshgates. That's what they're actually called up there.
Really? I didn't know that that's what they were called.
So if you're really into this stuff, it sticks out to you. That stuff's out there. However, to me, it found myself lacking. You got your mythology, you got it sprinkled in there, but I feel like not much was done with it.
Yeah, there could have been a lot more that could have been done. Speaking about like the way you said that there are these creatures that change and everything, how did the visual effects feel like for you?
Visual effects have always been an issue with me. I mean, they did the wise thing, okay? I mean, a lot of the monsters are CGI, okay? And I know everyone and their mother are gonna complain. Everything's CGI now. They did CGI good because they used the elements to disguise it. For you, those of you who don't know, CGI obviously has tons of imperfections, tons of it. You can tell when something's fake, but when you have older movies like Jurassic Park, for instance, the original.
That's a good one. Yeah.
The CGI holds up because they were able to cover their mistakes. And the way to cover your mistakes is CGI your creature at night, CGI your creature while it rains. These are little tricks here and there to make the creature seem more realistic. And with that being said, because of those little tricks, they didn't need to give us much on the visual effects. We didn't need to see the monsters, but we can feel them and we can see their presence, and just the shadowy silhouette was all we needed because they used those elements perfectly.
They really did use a lot of nightly or dark vision or visual effects while it was going on and stuff like that, which also gave you that feeling of dread, something that was going to come up at you all of a sudden. So that was something that I kind of was looking, because and as for scare, I don't really feel too much that it had a lot of pop-ups or anything like that, but it did have some stuff that to me it was like, oh, you know what, there's something's going to happen. So that feeling, that tension was kind of there and stuff like that. Did the movie make you feel anything like that at all?
I felt like a lot of moments, when you were talking about the jump scares and stuff, they don't do many jump scares, but they try to use a lot of them, and they try to do it with, like, I call them subversions. They're going to jump scare you, but it's not the monster that's going to scare you. It's a bird that came out of nowhere. Oh, bird, it ruined my view. Oh, it's just a brick. Oh, it's just a twig. So they use that a lot, but for me, they were predictable. I knew when they were coming. The first jump scare, I didn't jump. I found myself just waiting. I was waiting for the story to progress. I felt like the jump scares were too predictable.
Like, just trying to think more thoroughly throughout this movie, how did the plot feel like to you? To me, I felt like the plot, it did slowly inch inward. Like, to me, it felt like they were taking their time, but they were doing it at a right pace, plot-wise. Like, how did the pacing feel like to you?
Before I answer that question, could you elaborate a little bit more of that by inching through? I'm really curious about your perspective before I give mine.
If you didn't see the trailers, you didn't see anything, it was like, all right, where is this going? The protagonist, the main character, comes out, and they slowly are trying to give, like any other movie, they're trying to get you to understand the personality of this person, what kind of character flaws they have and everything. And as it went on forward, it was one of those things like, okay, we know in the very first scene something happens, and then we're kind of like, okay, but where is this going to go? Why is the character, the protagonist, important at all? And as you went through, to me, it felt like as you went forward throughout the story, it's like, okay, now we're starting to nibble at the core of this thing, starting to get to the caramel of it all. Like, how did you feel about that, the pacing on all that?
I think the pacing was actually pretty good. We get introduced to the character, and we get automatically a semblance of who she is. She's sad, she's depressed, she's off-putting, she's kind of a...
You really don't like her.
I really didn't like her. But this is the problem with a lot of horror movies. When they try to make a strong, independent character, they come off like that, cold, tactful. And it's not just the women part. They do it to the guys too. Oh, I don't believe you. Oh, you're full of it. I'm just tired of the pessimism with my protagonist. That said, as the plot was progressing, she gets lost in the forest, everything. It's a typical Alice in Wonderland story, fish out of water. So I'm okay with that. Let's get on board with that. However, when you begin the beginning of the story, they do what they normally do. A little bit of exposition, tell you about the plot and everything. But at some point in the movie, they start spoon feeding you information to the point where I felt like the movie thought I was an idiot, because I had to have things explained to me.
You felt belittled a little.
Oh, absolutely belittled. There was a point where when they went ahead and they explained the mythology of, like, the elves themselves, they explain, okay, these are the fairy folks, this and that. Pretty great. They go into the bunker, again, spoiler alert. They find a bunker, and they find more information on the creatures. Information that they already told us, but now it's going to be applied. Then we finally go out of the forest, and they make it out. Again, spoilers. So they make it out, And she's going to go to the office where the guy who is studying these things talks about them. And we learn even more information.
That's true.
So she has to go to the woman, her friend, and explain what she just learned to us in another way so we can finally understand it. And when the twist finally came, guys, they forgot to tell us why the twist worked. So at the very last minute, they went back on their own rules and tried to explain to us like we wouldn't notice it was a giant plot hole.
This is obviously, M. Night Shyamalan's daughter's debut. And we all know M. Night Shyamalan, he loves doing those twists. Those twists are just something that he himself loves to do. So that kind of was one of those elements that he had an influence in trying to get that twist in. Do you think he influenced this movie a little bit too much?
Yes and no. I believe that he was a huge influence, but not in a way that everyone thinks where he literally said, no, I want this done with the story of that. I don't think he influenced this story in particular, but I think he influenced the creator. After all, this is his daughter.
Yeah.
So I feel like it was his daughter's attempt to emulate her father's work. It was her way of creating a plot twist. And some of the best M. Night Shyamalan plot twists is where he leaves you a little bit of information. You get something like The Sixth Sense, and I'll try not to spoil these movies, but you get something like The Sixth Sense. You get little hints here and there. Bruce Willis can only interact with objects that are red. He's still wearing the same clothes over and over. And at the end of the movie, you find out that he was really a counselor this whole time. I'm not spoiling that movie, folks. That was a good twist ending.
That was a good movie.
But though that's a twist done right. Then you have bad twists. And those are the ones that I'm just like, I can't stand. You have Split, for instance. James McAvoy's best performance.
I absolutely agree with you on that.
However, the twist at the end was the beast only goes after people that were hurt. You hinted at it. You hinted at it throughout the whole movie. You hinted that this girl was in an abusive situation. So when the monster finally saw her scars, it wasn't a surprise, guys. And that to me was like, it was a typical M. Night Shyamalan twist, but done bad. It was Lady in the Water as opposed to, Sixth Sense.
I have a funny non sequitur here. It kind of feels almost like a seven, how they say 7 or 8 degrees to Kevin Bacon. I mean, you're literally talking about Split, another movie with Anya Taylor-Joy. Something like
there we go.
So just a little non sequitur there. So looking at just kind of like you mentioned, Split, obviously another like M. Night Shyamalan movie, and I'm looking at this. They really have. I personally feel like M. Night Shyamalan has a really good way of bringing things out to make them seem real. Like something like I was kind of wondering, if I were to go to Ireland, if I go that far out, will that happen to me? That was something I'm kind of, wait, is there an undisclosed area in Ireland? Because that nowadays there are like warning signs and blockades and everything that tell you, don't go this far. Mm-hmm. This one was kind of like, how come there was no blockade? But at the same token, like if something like this were to happen, I'm kind of wondering, wait, could this be something that could happen? Can I get stuck in the forest and have to deal with creatures like this? Did you feel that way watching this movie?
At any point, could this happen? Could I be stuck in a bad M. Night Shyamalan movie? No, I don't think it was possible. However, I love to suspend the object of disbelief. I love fantasy. I love it a lot. For those of you guys who don't know, I'm really big into sci-fi, comics, fantasy. Love Lord of the Rings, love mythology, as you could tell. So enchanted forests that weren't claimed on maps and creatures that we don't know about that possess magical properties. I think stuff like that kind of does exist. I mean, I don't like talking about skinwalkers because I do believe they exist. Yeah. So that's something that I believe in the plausibility.
And as a person that also kind of has the idea that these things can be out there. Obviously, I've never gone out far enough to, encounter anything like this. But I mean, there's a lot of different accounts with people that they themselves are, they go somewhere, they're, hiking and they're going like, hey, there's a trail we've never seen before. And they decide to take that trail and something happens to them, so, I understand that feeling that you're like, hey, I believe in this stuff. And there's stuff out there that we cannot explain. And that's absolutely something true. And this movie was something that I was kind of like wondering, hey, is that something that can happen right now? Is that something that maybe this movie got inspired by those accounts those things of people going and surviving something heinous, you know. So that was something for me that I was kind of looking at. I agree with you on a lot of the stuff, the plot and everything else. And yeah, it did feel like they were spoon feeding and dumbing things down to us a bit. So I have to agree with you on a lot of those things. Just, I guess, for me personally, they added the musical tension behind certain things, and I know that was something that I was paying attention to. So some of the sounds that you're listening to and everything, you know, music and the frequencies have a way of, you know, getting to you. To me, that was something that created that tension and stuff like that. So did you get anything from that, from like the music itself? Did you build that tension at all?
I don't know, and I'm actually glad that you were able to point that out. One thing that I did love, tension-wise, was, and this is probably something that I didn't cop, but something that was like visually explained to us. Something, okay, this is rare for this movie, so I'm going to actually give a compliment. Fair warning, folks, Jay Anderson's about to be nice.
This is rare, guys. This is rare.
But there was a point where the whole concept of the movie is to stare at the mirrors. You can't see them, but they can see you.
Right.
And with maybe the exception of maybe once, you know, where you see a brief glimpse of them, I felt that through the entire movie. I felt like they were watching me and I couldn't see them.
Right.
So visually, that's where I felt the tension. She actually got that right for me.
All right, so that's a pro for this movie so far.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
So that's something that we're trying to look, because we want to look at good things for this movie. And again, one of our spins having to do with movie grade is we don't want to just beat a movie down. We don't want to just, you know, berate a movie. You get enough of that from other reviewers. Let's try to look at the good side of this. And so that's some of the stuff that we want to bring up the grade just a little bit. And so, you know, and obviously we are looking at someone who's trying to, I guess, succeed M. Night Shyamalan. It's kind of his way of pushing his daughter forward. And
passing the torch, if you will.
Exactly, passing the torch. You know, try not to get too many spoilers out there, but I kind of want to feel like towards the end, having to do with a memorable moment, I think really has to do with the way it ended. I kind of think, yeah, like you said, that was the twist. That was the thing for me. Did you get any other memorable moment at all from this movie?
No, I did not.
M. Night Shyamalan's daughter, I've tried.
Again, if anything, all the little references, all the little nods to folklore, it's the only thing that stuck out to me. Fortunately, nothing really went out, and that's not a diss on anybody who participated in this movie. As I pointed out when we were watching the credits, it stars Dakota Fanning. I haven't seen her in forever, you know. Last movie I literally saw her was when she was with Chris Evans in that terrible movie Push. I think they were trying to be X-Men with telekinesis. I don't remember that movie.
Yeah, that was
she was just a little thing back then, and then she disappeared off the face of the earth. So thank you. I'm glad to see you back, Dakota Fanning. Really great to see you in films again. You know.
Do you think she acted her part well?
Well, yeah, she frustrated me, and I think that was the point of her character. But more than frustrated, she frustrated me in the beginning. But at the end, yeah, she was a good character. She drove the story. She pushed the plot forward. She did everything a good main character should do.
Right.
So, yeah, good on her. I guess, if anything, Dakota Fanning and the folklore stuck out to me. Nothing in particular aside from that. Sorry, guys.
All right. Well, we tried to give this movie a good shot and everything. This is movie grade. Instead of doing a 10-star scale or 10-point scale, we do this on a grade scale from A+ to F-. The F- does exist. Somebody asked me that question. But essentially, you know, what kind of grade do you think this would get? And do you think, you know, looking at it in the best possible light, which is going to be difficult for Jay Anderson if you don't know him, what would be the grade that you think you could give this?
Before I say anything, I don't want people to say like, "Oh, just a hater, Jay." No, I'm not a hater. Okay, I love M. Night Shyamalan, Signs, the whole Glass trilogy.
Right.
Some of my favorite works from him. You know, Unbreakable still makes me cry to this day. But for the produced M. Night Shyamalan and his daughter's debut, you know what, I'm not gonna say that word, for the first time directing a movie, you know what, I'm sorry guys, it gets a D. I want to say D-, but I'm being a little mean. It gets a D. It barely passed, but you're still grounded, you know.
having to look at everything and like the way you pointed certain things out and everything like that, and of course Everybody has their own personal view and personal take on things. I myself am more action aficionado type based. I look at the way things move, the way things are coordinated. I look at the sound quality, and I look at things a certain way like that. And I think there are maybe a few elements that maybe key points that I probably missed. Maybe it deserves a rewatch to possibly give this a better grade. And unfortunately, I have to agree, this gets a D. And this is something that it was kind of hard, and I was a little hard pressed. That being said, though, I think it still passes. So I want to give it a plus. I do. I want to give it that D plus, just because, you know, this is a debut. This is your first movie, and you know, there's a lot for her to learn.
There's a lot more room for improvement. Absolutely.
So that's one of those things, and I think D is probably the best grade we can give it, and I believe it passes. It's passing, and we want to see more, but we want to see better. That's something that I completely agree with. So once again, thank you, Jay, for joining us again. This was fantastic. This is Movie Grade. I am your host, J.R.Alva, voice actor, and I'm joined here with...
Of course, I'm Jay Anderson. You can always find me at Pro Wrestling Legacy. Look us up at all social media on YouTube, Pro Wrestling Legacy, TX. The TX stands for Texas. And of course, if you're in the El Paso area, feel free to see us at any time. Pro Wrestling Legacy. I'm Jay Anderson.
Thank you very much for joining us again, Jay. And if you guys don't know, I do put this out on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. We are Movie Grade 0013 at YouTube. In case you need to find us, please like and subscribe, and go ahead and put anything in the comments of any movie that you guys want us to see. Please share this with everybody. And again, let us know what you guys think. Is there questions we should have asked? Were we too harsh on this movie? Anything that you guys think that we might have missed out on. Hope you guys enjoy this show, and I hope to see you again.